Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we can see that the green screen doesn't particularly like my red hoodie, but also we can see that we are looking ahead to the game this weekend, Manchester United against Luton. We're going to talk about some of the things that you can expect to see during the game, how the two managers might set up, and things like that. Now, as a Manchester United fan, you might kind of look at this from the outside and think, well, we're only playing Luton. Do we really need to look into it? Surely they're not that much of a challenge. Well, yes, in terms of pure quality on the football pitch, Manchester United will be superior. They have the better players. However, if we look at Luton's recent form, they're not exactly getting smashed in the Premier League. I mean, that Villa game aside, we can see that they've had a couple of decent results in recent weeks, particularly that draw against Liverpool at the weekend. So I think it would be wrong to assume that this is going to be a walkover for United. So let's head over to the tactical board and look at what I think we might see during the game. Now, what we've got here is not necessarily the lineup that I would go for, but the lineups that I think the two managers will side with. I think we'll see Reguilon coming in for Dalot. I think Dalot's looked really tired in the past couple of games. Rafael Varane was really poor in midweek, and also Johnny Evans picked up an injury. Not sure how bad it is, but for that reason I'm bringing Lindelof into the side. It allows Maguire to be right centre-back, and we know that for some reason Ten Hag favours this midfield trio at the moment, and we saw this attacking trio early on in midweek. So I think this will be the setup for United. Now, the question mainly is, when Manchester United are trying to play the ball out from the back, is our Luton going to be aggressive and press them high? Because when you play with a back three or a back five, as Luton have done in recent weeks, you can be quite aggressive in the way that you press, because naturally you've got these two wing backs here who can fly forward. If you then wish to push, say, a couple of wingers higher and maybe keep the striker a little bit deeper, it does allow you to apply some pressure to the ball, and you can be quite dangerous. Now, this isn't what Luton tend to do. Luton don't tend to be this aggressive out of possession, particularly with the wing-backs. If Luton do press high, it tends to be more of a front three and a midfield two doing the job. So I don't think we'll see the wing-backs particularly connected to the press, because of course they'll be worried about what's going on in behind them, the likes of Rashford, Garnacho, Rasmus Højlund. I don't think they will want to leave those spaces. So I think if Luton are to press, it will be a front three, with perhaps one of the midfielders sort of backing up the press, or when the ball goes one way, Luton will then shift across, that sort of idea. Now, with this in mind, there is potential for United to have control in this game. We saw it during spells of the game against Copenhagen, that when United played a little bit slower, this starting 11 did have the ability to control the ball, keep hold of possession, and therefore gain territory and gain control of the game. And I think, again, particularly with someone like Onana in goal, who really helps you out in this area, I think United should just have too many players in these deeper positions, particularly if Ten Hag uses the same system which we saw in midweek, which was more of a 2-4 shape. Getting this extra midfielder a little bit deeper, helping out the side, build up possession. I think it should allow United to just outnumber Luton in these areas easily enough. So I think United will take control of the football in this match, and we'll see Luton dropping off into more of a sort of a 5-4-1. At times it'll be a mid-block, and eventually it'll drop into more of a low block. And this will not be an easy task for United to try and break this down, because, I mean, as we can see, there's a lot of players here. We've got three centre-backs in central areas. We've got the two central midfielders as well, who are going to be hard to play through. We've got Morris in here as well. That's a lot of numbers. It makes it really difficult to progress the ball through the middle of the pitch. But also out wide, they've still got a winger and a fullback on both sides. So it won't be an easy task for United to break down this Luton defence. They are pretty stubborn. The question is, how do you approach it from a United point of view? What sort of structure do you look to use? Well, I think, again, initially I would go with the 2-4 shape. Not necessarily because it is the best shape to break down Luton, but more so because I think it's the best shape to allow United to control the ball, and again, make sure that there's always a passing option. By having this extra midfielder in there, it's physically an extra option you can pass the ball to, right? So it makes sense to naturally, it connects the whole team a little bit more. So I think it could suit United in this game. As the ball is progressed up the pitch, perhaps with someone like Harry Maguire or Scott McTominay, I think we then could see a change in shape there, because United will need to commit men forward. For example, if United played a whole game with a 2-4-3-1, as United get onto the last line, we're talking about a 3 versus 5 here, or at best, perhaps a 4 versus 5. So I think as United move the ball forward, we'll then see a change in shape. So I think it will be a deep 2-4 initially to control the ball, and then as the ball comes to, say, Scott McTominay here, Marcus Rashford moves into this little pocket of space, Bruno Fernandes moves in here, Wan-Bissaka pushes forward. We might then see a bit more of a back three naturally taking shape if Reguilon just kind of holds his position a little bit, or perhaps more of an off-balance 2-3 shape like this. But the idea will be that United will need to push players forward onto the last line and take some risks in possession, because again, Luton will be incredibly stubborn, and again, with a back five, it is difficult to find a space. Would I recommend United push all the way to a front six in this game? Probably not initially, because I think if you do that, if you push to a front six, let's say we push Scott McTominay, for example, further forward, and build with a 3-1 at the back, there is a lot of potential for this to work, but there's also a lot of potential that if United use this shape, again, because there's this lack of players in deeper areas, we see another one of those games where the centre-backs stand on the ball and everyone else is too high and you can't really find them. So I would stick with sort of a 3-2 or a 2-4 or a 2-3 initially, but then perhaps as the ball is progressed forward, move through the thirds, then you can start to commit that extra man as Luton are dropping deeper and deeper. Now, in terms of once Luton are in these deep set positions, again, it will be difficult to break them down. I think it's important that we don't underestimate Luton here. But I think hopefully, with this sort of change system which we've seen in the past couple of games, I think the potential for Garnacho to come inside or Rashford to come inside and then get a fullback flying round could be important, particularly down the left-hand side. So let's say United have built possession down this side. So Wan-Bissaka instead now is going to hold a little bit deeper. And we're going to see a shape more like this. I think now if Garnacho can get the ball in this sort of position here, can he drag the wing back and make some room for Reguilón? There's definitely potential. And Reguilón, once in these areas, we haven't seen it yet for United, but he is a good crosser of the ball. Now, there is a chance it doesn't open up quite as easily as that. For example, the wing-back may actually choose to follow Reguilón, and we might see someone like Mengi, the former United player, actually being more aggressive on Garnacho in these areas. Or we might see that this midfield block from Luton is actually so deep that there isn't room in these positions. And I think ultimately the most important thing for United in this game is going to be incredibly patient on the ball. The structure, things like that, will absolutely be very important. It's important that United have players nearby to try and link up and combine, because you're going to need that to break Luton down. It's also important that United push people onto the last line to occupy spaces. But I think actually the most important thing is more about the intensity and the mindset and the tempo more than anything. I don't need to see a game here where United are constantly firing the ball forward. I do feel that if United slow it down a little bit more and control possession, there is the chance that they break down this Luton defence. I think that's the best chance anyway. I also think maybe for that reason you could bring in someone like Amrabat. Now, I think Ten Hag would go for Scott McTominay, but perhaps Amrabat and Eriksen just sitting deep and really just completely controlling the game could be a good way forward. We know that both of them are very good at switching the ball. They're both also very good progressive passers. They're also two of United's better retention-based midfielders. I think it could be a good base for United to really control this game, control the tempo. And basically, if United approach this game in the right way, and with a similar approach tactically, but also in terms of mindset, to what they did to Copenhagen game, where I think we saw improvements, I think we should see a game where United control the ball, Luton find themselves sitting pretty deep, and basically, it's can you break down this low block. Now, when you're trying to break down a low block, the players you want to find is someone like Christian Eriksen. I think he could be important in this game. Perhaps Scott McTominay is an impact sub a little bit later in the game as a target man in the box. Mason Mount could provide something later in the game as well. But I think we're looking for Marcus Rashford. Can you beat your fullback down this side or your wing back? Can the fullbacks for United get in support of the attack? Of course, the timing is important, but I think we will need to see them in these forward areas. But also, can you get Bruno Fernandes between these two central midfielders here? Particularly if at times United do go a bit more risky and commit to more of a diamond shape in the midfield. Can you find Bruno Fernandes between these two central midfielders, this area like we like to call Zone 14? From here, can you find Erasmus Højlund? Is there potential for perhaps a long shot from this position? Can we combine with Garnacho and see 1-2s in around these areas? We'll have to wait and see. In terms of spaces for Erasmus Højlund, they'll be limited. Of course they will. Because again, Luton are stubborn and compact. But I think if United are patient enough in possession, keep probing, with players like Garnacho, like Bruno Fernandes, like Rasmus Højlund, like Eriksen, like Marcus Rashford, there should be enough in there to provide those creative sparks. Now, of course, we need to see patterns of play as well. We do need to see that timing of underlap into this sort of position. Can we now find a cut back into the penalty area? Or can we now work the ball back outside? These are definitely things which we'll need to see during the game. But that's more on the players and what's being produced on the training ground. Can it be replicated on the pitch? It's quite difficult for us to talk about it in a video. But we will need to see those patterns of play. So, in terms of, looking ahead to this game against Luton, previewing the game, what I'm expecting from this football match is I think Luton will kind of half engage in a press, but I think United will be able to play the ball out from the back with their just superior amount of numbers, the numerical overload in the deeper positions. I then think if United are calm enough on the ball, control possession and slow it down, it will be a game where Luton are deep, you're trying to break them down. You might need a set piece, for example, to get a goal ahead and then the floodgates open. You might need a penalty, things like that. I want to see risks in the final third. I want to see the first two thirds, the first two phases, quite patient and controlled. But in the final third, here and there, take a risk. Yes, of course, also make sure you're kind of shifting them side to side. But we will need to see risks in the final third. People taking players on. Because again, I keep saying it, Luton will be compact and difficult to break down. But that's how I think this game will play out. A lot of it will depend on Ten Hag's approach. I'd like to see a similar approach to the Copenhagen game, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, let me know your scoreline prediction, and also let me know, are you going to be joining this afternoon's stream, where we're going to talk about this game in more depth, and we're going to come up with actually the starting 11, which I would go for, and also what you guys would go for as fans. So again, let me know in the comments if you are going to be joining the stream, but apart from that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.